And former President Trump's influence on Republican voters was reaffirmed last night after several candidates he endorsed won their primaries. Ed O'Keefe is watching the results. Ed, good morning.
Anne-Marie, very good morning to you. Good to see you. It was another good night for candidates backed by former President Trump. In battleground Wisconsin, his choice for governor, Tim Michels, who falsely claimed the 2020 election was rigged, won the primary over former Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Kleefisch, who'd been backed by former Vice President Mike Pence. Michels will face incumbent Democrat Tony Evers in a battle that could forever reshape elections in the state. In the Wisconsin U.S. Senate race, Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes won the Democratic primary. He calls himself the other Mandela and would become the state's first black senator if he wins. He'll face off against Senator Ron Johnson, considered the most vulnerable Senate Republican on the ballot this year and one of Trump's biggest supporters. In Washington state, cleaning up contests from last week, another sign of the former president's strength. Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler conceded and will not be on the ballot in November. She was one of the 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach the former president after the January 6 riots. Well, now 7 of them have either retired or lost their race. Liz Cheney's up next in the Wyoming primary next week. Polls suggest she's also going to lose. Meanwhile, in Vermont, Becca Balint won the Democratic primary and could make history on 2 fronts. If she wins her House race in November, she'll become the first woman and the first openly gay person to ever represent the Green Mountain State in Congress. For a state that has a pretty liberal reputation, Anne-Marie, important to point out, they've been represented by white guys for most of their history, and Vermont is the last state to elect a woman to Congress. So that would be a big deal.
It would be a very big deal. Listen, a quick question for you. Trump's endorsements have been challenged by his own vice president, Mike Pence. It's something I don't think we've ever seen before. In many states, I'm curious about what some of the losses indicate about Pence's potential influence and his potential as a 2024 nominee.
Yeah, well, look, in the governor's primaries where they've gone head-to-head, the former president leads the former vice president 2-1 because Brian Kemp won in Georgia. He was backed by Pence. Carrie Lake won last week in Arizona. She was backed by Trump. And now Tim Michels winning in Wisconsin. So what it does is it suggests that the former vice president, while still making preparations, while still believing that there's a lane for somebody like him, going to be hard for him to emerge. Remember, all the polling we've seen, the straw polls taken at recent conservative conferences suggest it is the former president's to lose by several miles. And this week's developments, of course, only seem to bolster his political standing among Republicans. But let there be no doubt, there are several Republicans, many of whom served in the Trump administration, who are still thinking about challenging Mr. Trump in 2024.
We will see. Ed, thank you very much.